Hello there, I'm Benjinator12, and today I'm going to be looking at not a Gundam model kit, but Figma number 220 Ryuko Matoi from the Kill la Kill series. I am so excited to be reviewing this figure. I ordered it back when it was first announced, and I finally got a hold of it yesterday. It's a blast. I'm glad I made this purchase. So here we've got the box, but the box isn't exciting. Let's move on to the figure. Okay, so right off the bat, you'll see that she is on her Figma stand, which all Figmas come with, because she's got very small feet, very tiny feet, and balancing her is possible, but it's not easy. So that's, I guess, one con right off the bat. But that's just about the figure as a whole. The only other Figma I've ever had is the Mikasa Ackerman from Attack on Titan. And if I make comparisons to other Figmas in the video, that is my frame of reference. So I can't say I'm like an expert in Figmas, so that's my only frame of reference. Now, compared to Mikasa, honestly, the paint applications here, and there are a lot of them, of course, you get this nice very dark navy blue. It's really almost black. It's just barely not black. It's that's on the majority of it here. You get a brighter sort of red on the striping, on her suspenders, and so on the sides here. A little bit of a darker red comes through on the collar here and along the eye, just of Senketsu here for shading purposes. There's a lot of detail going on. You have very bright red here on the back. I think that's the same that's on the legs, but just to give you an idea. The back of the collar, lots of great detail going on here. So overall, paint's pretty good. Once again, frame of reference here, the Mikasa one feels like the paint applications are maybe just a little bit sharper. But I'm not going to complain too much. So to dive right into the figure's features and articulation, this thing is littered in the standard Figma joints, and then it's got also a bunch of extra swivels, so I'll try to go into that the best I can. Alright, the head, of course, is on just one Figma joint. Unlike Mikasa, who I believe had a neck joint, Ryuko's just pegs in. Hold on. Pop it out. Okay, so standard Figma joint, which, as you can see, is like a revolver joint for Revoltech. It's two pegs are connected to a central swivel, and that means that they can rotate along the peg, and then the swivel moves, which is allows for a fairly free range of movement. Now, Ryuko's neck there, like I said, doesn't have a joint or anything, so the posing options, it's not that they're limited, because that would be saying wrong, because you can pull off pretty much any pose you want. You can rotate full 360 degrees for creepiness, I guess. But it's not a super duper dynamic setup for the head. The arms are on a peg that goes into a ball joint in the body that can move back and forth, and then it's connected to a revolver joint-esque Figma joint there that can then swivel up. You can get her arm up that far and down, and of course it can rotate 360 degrees. There's a swivel right at that joint, and there's another swivel below this boxy cuff thing here. So there's just tons and tons of swivels going on. Honestly, I don't know if that adds that much, but there's just so many swivels. Of course, the arm has a Figma joint here that allows to have a more than 90-degree bend. Maybe like, not quite 120. But it's fairly decent. And the hand is on a Figma joint as well. But because of the way this cuff here is designed, there's not a huge range of mobility unless you pull the hand forward a little, which exposes more of the joint, and then you can get you already had 360 degrees, but then you can get a little tilt going on too, and then if you get the joint sideways, you can get a little tilt that way. The chest section here. Senketsu's collar pieces here are on a little, I don't know what sort of joint it is, and I'm kind of concerned about finding out. I think there might just be a ball joint connected underneath this central piece here. But they can move around very freely. They're made of a softer sort of rubber than the rest of the figure, which is a little concerning. It feels a little weak, and I'm almost afraid that the connections down there might break at some point if I fiddle around with it too much. But overall, it does serve its purpose by being able to get out of the way for poses. If you really wanted, I guess you could have her reach up through it. No, I'm not going to do that. But it would be, in theory, possible with the way you can move the collar pieces. So you move them up and down, forwards, backwards. They don't hold the poses very well. They like to return to their original state. She's got a single chest piece of articulation here, a ball joint there that moves around, and as you'll see as I move it around, her suspenders there also move. They are made of another sort of soft rubbery plastic that also feels pretty darn delicate, but it does create a very nice fluid effect when she's twisting around and such. That's the only piece of body articulation. Then for the legs, you've got the standard, oh god, this feels really dirty. You got the standard Figma, there's a one bar joint going across with two ball joints on either side that connect into a hip swivel inside the thigh. That allows you to bring the leg up this far and back just that far. I guess it's better than a Gundam's back skirt getting in the way. She's got this very flared skirt armor, if you will. But that's how it looks in the show. Alright. Her leg will bend more than 90 degrees. It's a single joint, not a double joint, which means in order to do that, it has this really weird lump here in the design. That could definitely be a turn-off for some people. For me, I just wanted a figure of Ryuko, so it's okay for me. But definitely does look a bit odd there. And some Figmas do have that. I've read that they really do have issues with looking odd because of how the joints are placed. It's funny that, Revoltech, they always started off that way. The early Revoltechs always looked really weird with all their revolver joints, but then they kind of found ways to work around that, and now Figma's dealing with the problem. The feet are on yet another Figma joint. Of course, it's got a peg up here and a peg down here. That means it can rotate at both of those points. It's kind of hard to do so. It can rotate 360 degrees. And as that joint gets sideways there, it can do a little... that will help you, that twisting ability will help you get a flat-footed pose. It'll also, because of that swivel in the center of the Figma joint, be able to move up that far and back that far. And so I guess that's it for articulation. Lots and lots of points of articulations. Oh yeah, that's right. The swivel. There's an extra swivel underneath the thigh as well that allows you to move the leg just a little bit independently of that. So there's that too. So loads and loads of points of articulation, even though there are some that don't really actually aid the posing that much, like these having two sets of swivels, a swivel up at the ball joint here and a swivel down here, a swivel up at the joint up here in the arm and down there, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but hey, it works and you can pull off some pretty spectacular poses. So that's it for the figure itself. Overall, the joints are fairly tight, maybe a little bit better than the Mikasa Figma ones were, but you can tell that after a while they're going to wear down because they're just a friction joint. They're just a friction joint, not like a revolver joint. But as for what it is, it's pretty good. And so you can of course connect it to the Figma stand, which it comes with. Now to move on to accessories, like all Figmas, comes with a Figma branded bag, a Ziploc bag, to keep your accessories in. Ryuko doesn't have a whole lot of accessories compared to Mikasa, who just came with tons and tons and tons of accessories. Ryuko's a little more basic. Come on. Okay, so you get, first and foremost, the alternate faces. You get, as opposed to the smile she's got on her right now, you get an angry face. And you get a wincing and blushing face. Sort of, if you want to dig into the lore of Kill la Kill, which is something I've never thought I'd say, she's in her Senketsu's perfect form here, the one that she acquires after she learns to not be ashamed of how ridiculous it looks. And after that point, she doesn't really blush. You know, I know that's the whole joke of her character you'll see a lot online is her, you know, with the goofy looking little blush, but she stops blushing after the point that she achieves this. So why the wincing face has a blush, it's probably just to reference that, but canonically it doesn't make sense. But that's a nitpick. I mean, that's not going to stop me from enjoying this figure. I don't really think the wince would be all that much better if she wasn't blushing. That's just a minor thing. As a huge Kill la Kill fan, I had to point out. All right. You're, of course, going to get her scissor blade, which can be held in... she's got two different sets of grabbing hands, which I'll go ahead and set up here. So we'll pluck one out. I don't think I've actually quite figured out the difference between the sets of grabbing hands, which ones are supposed to be used for which thing, but there's a time for everything. Okay, this is not the hand I need for this one, so no. We'll switch over to this. Wiggle that in there. As you can see, the scissor blade comes apart, the handle pops off, so you can more easily put the hands on it and not risk breaking the gosh darn thing. So you just pop the hand off of the Figma wrist joint, which sometimes comes with it. Silly wrist joint. Pop it off there, reapply it with the long side going backward. Make sure that the long side of the joint is always what's going into the arm, and the short side is going into the hand. And now she can wield her scissor blade and find out who killed her father. You know, that makes me want to get a newie Figma. I want a newie Figma right now. Max Factory, get on it. Alright, for the other hands you get, so you got those two different sets of gripping hands. You've got open hands, which are very nice. They've got the red painted onto the bottom. The grabbing hands... Alright, I am sorry about that. My camera, which is very stupid, died. So, I had to recharge it. It's like a Sony Bloggy. If you know of a good replacement, please recommend a camera to me. Now, really briefly, it did let me think of something I forgot to mention. How to swap faces. Here we go. You take the head here. Let me see how I can do this with not getting my fingers in the way. And you just grab this forward section of her face and you pull it off. And then you take her face, which is on a set of little pegs in there, pop it off, and replace it with another one of the alternate faces, like her angry one here. So what I'll do, I will clip the front back on, and it will be perfect time to put it on and demonstrate her final accessory, being the scissor blade in decapitation mode. Come on. Go on. There we go. Okay. So, the scissor blade in decapitation mode, just like the other one, the handle comes off, which I will demonstrate here. This big section, the big blade itself, is all one piece. And it just pops right onto the handle, which has a little clear plastic peg there. Now, back to the hands, where we were. Open hands with red on the bottom. The only other ones with red on the bottom are these. He's got a set of two hands with two fingers clenched. They're not anywhere on the box art. And since I don't imagine her really doing air quotes, I'm kind of concerned as to what these are for. I know my mind immediately went to a bad place. But that's me. So, that is actually it for accessories, other than the this tiny little extra Figma joint here. It's an extra one for the wrists in case you break one because they're small, and I guess that might happen. So, in summary, this is a solid figure. There are a few nitpicks I've got. The quality of the paint is good, but compared to the absolutely stunning job that was on the Mikasa Figma, it's a little bit disappointing. Oh, I also found out the crests are just on a long peg. It's not a ball joint, just a long peg. They came out, and they can do so fairly easily. So it's a fairly solid figure. A little bit of confusing engineering, like putting those on a peg instead of a ball joint. Having these extra swivels where it's questionable whether you need them. I mean, it's nice to have them, but how much are they really adding? You don't get a ton of accessories, just the hands, the faces, and the scissor blades. But not like there would be a whole lot. For the price, I'd say it's a fairly solid bet, but if you're a fan of Kill la Kill, this needs to be part of your collection. It's a good figure, and it does its job. I'd eagerly await to see what Max Factory has coming up next. I know they're doing a Satsuki Figma, but beyond that, we're not sure on the Figma front. But I know I'm definitely picking that one up because this one has made a fairly good impression. The complaints I've got about it really are just sort of nitpicks. It's a solid figure overall, so I definitely have to give it a thumbs up. You can score it for around $45 on most online retailers. So that's it for now. This is Benjinator12 signing off. I will see you guys later with more reviews.